So this is a holiday survival guide, how to stay on track without losing your mind. So why the holidays feel hard. And in the first place, like routines just get interrupted and you're kind of out of your normal schedule. So many events, so many parties are popping up. A lot of people are traveling and you're just out of your normal flow of things. And then stress is higher. You have to get gifts for people. You just have more events that you have to plan for and you have to prepare for those things. So there's a lot of stress that goes into it, and then food is everywhere. So basically anytime you go into the office, somebody has a little treat that they want to share. At the events that you go to, there's tons of food everywhere. So temptation is high. And also a lot of people get trapped into this all start in January mindset. And that can be definitely detrimental to your goals. But as long as you're like at least partially consistent, it really beats starting over in January. So as long as you can just try your best to stay on track and do the things and like show up with the small things, it is so much better than starting in January, like 5 or 10 pounds higher. And you're like, okay, well now I have to go back into a steeper cut. So let's go through that and see what we can do about that. So the average American actually gains 1 to 2 pounds through the holidays from what research show. Most people think they gain about 5 to 10 pounds, but it's actually only 1 to 2. But the scale might go up 5 to 10 pounds, but a lot of that is inflammation and water. And typically once people get back into their normal routine, a lot of that will fall off. But there are 1 to 2 pounds of actual like body fat that get put on. And a lot of people will kind of just be like, oh, well, I got most of the weight off. It's totally fine. Well, the 1 to 2 pounds isn't a big deal. And then that slowly compounds over time and can add up year after year. And why it feels like more than 1 to 2 pounds and kind of what I mentioned earlier, so the scale might actually go up more than 1 to 2 pounds, is because of water retention and salty or sugary foods, more like high carb foods. So if every 1 gram of carb you eat, you hold on to 3 grams of water. So that's why when you do have carbs, you feel a little bit more puffy. It's because you have a little bit more water retention there. That can make you feel a little bit more bloated. And then you have higher stress, worse sleep, which causes craving, which causes you to eat more, and which causes your hormones to not regulate as well. So that can kind of play into you not feeling as great. More alcohol is involved, and then a disrupted routine. So the biggest thing that I want you guys to focus on is set holiday expectations and not perfection. So instead of thinking like, I need to be perfect this holiday season, or I'm going to gain weight, or I'm going to be set back, I want you guys to try to focus on staying like 70 to 80% consistent. Like be consistent when you can, and when you can't, just try your best. And try to focus on things like smaller goals, like I'll hit my protein goal daily, or I'll walk after meals. And so that way you are doing something that is helping your body and your health, but it's not about being perfect and following the plan 100% exactly every single day throughout the holidays. And then just having clear, realistic expectations, and that will help you with better follow through. Okay, and I think the biggest thing a lot of people will get trapped in, like let's say you have a really busy week and you have an event on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. And so people will just throw out the entire week. They're like, well, I have so many events this week, I'm just not going to try. We'll just start clean next week. I don't think that means that you need to throw out the whole week. You don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, is like what that saying goes. Just stay on track with the plan like any other day, or on days that you don't have events. So follow the plan 100% on days that you don't have events, where your schedule is normal. And then on days where you do have events, adjust those slightly. So event day strategies can be simple, but can definitely help you. So on days where you have big parties or big meals, eat normally or slightly lighter throughout the day, but don't starve yourself. So that way you can kind of like hit your protein goal before you even get to the party. I think that's always a good tip. Or just eat a little bit lighter. So focus on like fruits, vegetables, lean meats, and stuff leading up to the party. So that way your calorie intake is lower, but you're not going into the party starving. If you go into the party starving, then you're going to overeat. You're just going to see all the food in front of you. You're going to be like, I'm never going to get this food again. And then you're going to overeat. And so if you go into the party like satisfied or with not a completely empty stomach, you're going to handle that situation so much better. When you are at the event, just prioritize protein and produce. So lots of meats, lots of vegetables, lots of fruit. That's always a good way to kind of like handle those situations. Get in short walks the day of the event, so that way you're hitting your steps, or try to get in your workout in earlier in the day. And so that way you at least have that under your belt and you feel good and you have a good kind of like healthy start to your day. And so you don't feel bad when you are eating a little bit more at the event. And then have one indulgence in what you truly want. So I don't want you to feel like you're missing out on things, and I don't want you to hold back all the time. I want you to have something that you are super looking forward to having. So let's say on Thanksgiving, you love pumpkin pie. I want you to have that. I want you to look forward to that. And I want you to really indulge in that. And so that way you're not feeling like you're missing out and you don't feel like you can't have those treats. And that you are kind of just still feeling like you're apart, even though you're probably not going as overboard as what you would have in the past. Also, drinking water before and after events can really, really help you. It helps keep your digestion regular. It also helps you keep or stay more full before events, and it helps fill up your stomach. And it can also help regulate your blood sugar and prevents overeating. A good way to build your plate is the holiday plate method. So I would do half of your plate vegetables, like you could do a big like salad on half of your plate. That's really high or low calorie and then high volume. And then 1/4 of your plate can be protein. So try to get like 4 to 6 ounces of protein on your plate. So 1/4 of your plate protein, and then the other 1/4 of your plate carbs. And so you can have like treats on that plate, whether it's like a roll and a brownie or some cookies, or you just have pumpkin pie for the carbs. That way you have kind of like a balanced plate, but majority of the calories are coming from healthy foods. And that way you can enjoy everything without overeating or feeling guilty. And then I want you guys to focus on protein first, always. Protein keeps you full and reduces cravings later. And some examples that you can have at events is turkey, ham, roast beef. Those are the pretty obvious choices. You can also do Greek yogurt bowls before parties, protein shakes before big meals, shrimp cocktail, deviled eggs, meat trays. And I think a good tip is try to eat 20 to 30 grams of protein before going to an event. And so that way you're not going into the event starving. I like to hit my protein goal before even going to events. So if I don't want to eat protein there, or I don't want majority of my food to be protein there, then I can feel pretty comfortable or confident in being like, okay, well, I already hit my protein goal for the day. Anything else I have, whether it's like turkey or whatever, is a bonus. So you can always focus on that. And then moving your body more, even if it's minimal. So this is especially if like you're traveling, and your coach can work with you on this. So if you are traveling and you're not going to have access to a gym, let your coach know, let me know. And so that way we can schedule workouts for you that you can do. And they don't have to be full-blown workouts. Be like, I'm going to be super busy. I'm traveling. I'm going to spend most of my time with my family, but I still want to get some form of movement in. Can you schedule me like a 10 to 20 minute workout? And so that way we can do that. So we could schedule bodyweight workouts. We can schedule band workouts. We can do a little strength circuits. We can just focus on bumping up your step goal. So that way you're pushed more to go out on walks. We can set a thing where you do like 15 squats every hour, just some form of movement. So that way you are moving your body and you're not kind of just like sitting there stagnant while you are probably eating a little bit more. And then plan your indulgent. I don't know why I'm struggling with this word, indulgences. I can like read it. So when I typed it, it was like so much easier than me saying it out loud. Indulgences. There we go. Okay. So nothing is off limits. I don't ever want you to feel like you can't have food. Obviously, I don't want you to feel like you can eat as much as the food as you want. I want you to be able to get into a mindset of having a serving or two of something that you really enjoy and really feeling satisfied after that, and then moving on instead of feeling like you need to keep going back and back and back. But nothing should be off limits. I don't want you to ever feel like you can't have a food at an event because it doesn't fit your goals. So I want you to avoid this all or nothing mindset. And something that can help with that is deciding ahead of time what treat you want to eat. And if it's a few treats, maybe just have like a half of a serving of each of them instead of a full serving of each of them. So that way you can try them all, you're satisfied, and then you can move on. And then when you do have these treats, I want you to enjoy it mindfully. Sit down, really chew your food. Think about what you're eating. Think about the texture. Think about the taste. Think about like how much joy it's bringing you. And so that way you're not kind of just like talking to someone while you're eating it, and then you look down at your plate and you're like, oh crap, I only have one bite left and I can't even remember what I just ate. So if you're a little bit more present and mindful while you're eating it, that can help you feel more satisfied, and it makes it feel like you don't have to go back for like seconds or thirds. And then also just move on without guilt. Even if you overeat one day, just move on. There's no point in beating yourself up for overeating or eating more than what you should have, or eating a treat or anything like that. The stress and cortisol that your body releases from you feeling guilty afterwards does your body way more harm than you just eating that treat and then moving on. Okay, and then the biggest thing I want you to do is to still track. So don't stop tracking, just track a little bit more loosely. Even just by tracking mentally, you're going to eat a little bit less and you're going to make better food choices because you're going to be tracking, because you'll be held accountable. So you don't have to weigh everything. We're not expecting you to take food skills to all of your family events. We don't want you to be a psychopath, but some things that you can do is just taking a photo of your food and having AI estimate the amount of calories in the food and just logging it really quick. That will be a pretty easy way to do it. You can also log something similar in MyFitnessPal. So just search the food really quick, try to eyeball and guess the portion size, log it. And then also, I think my best tip is log the food before you eat it. So pre-log any food. So that way you can make adjustments if you need to, and you can decide whether or not the food is actually worth it. So if you see the calorie amount in your calories and you're like, ooh, those mashed potatoes are like 300 calories. I'd rather have like half the serving of that for 150 so I can have a little bit more pumpkin pie. So that way you can kind of like make those decisions before you even eat it, rather than eating all this food, logging it afterwards and realizing like you don't have enough room for pie anymore. So that way you can kind of like work in foods and decide which ones are worth it to you and which ones might not be. And another big thing I want you guys to focus on is protect your stress and your sleep. So high stress increases cravings and lowers willpower. So with stress, your body is releasing hormones that cause you to crave more food. Also, if you're getting lower amounts of sleep, that's going to unregulate your hormones, and it's going to cause you to crave more food. So I want you to still try to practice stress relieving techniques, whether it's like 2 to 5 minutes of deep breathing, a quick walk outside, being phone free before bedtime, or saying no when needed, or just talking to a friend or family member or a therapist about something that's happening in your life. So that way you're a little bit lower stress. You can also try journaling. I think all of those things are really helpful. And if you can protect your sleep and really learn to say no, if like someone's wanting you to stay at a party later, or someone's wanting you to wake up early to go get something done or whatever, just learn to say no when you need to. So that way you can protect your mental health as well as your sleep. And those will help decrease your cravings and make things a lot easier. I think the biggest thing is to remember the big picture. One meal isn't going to ruin your progress. So let's say on Thanksgiving, you overeat, you overdid it. That's totally fine. Instead of feeling guilty and taking it into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and letting it snowball over the weekend, just get right back on track on Friday and be like, okay, I overate yesterday. It was kind of fun, but today I'm going to show up and I'm going to hit my steps, hit my workouts. I'm going to stay within my calorie goal. And so that way you don't let it snowball into longer than it needs to be. And also kind of what I mentioned earlier, beating yourself up about going overboard one day is not going to do your body any favors. It's just going to release the cortisol. It's going to release stress into your body, and it's going to cause your body to hold on to that weight, rather than if you kind of just like forgive yourself, move on, and get right back on track, you're going to, that like one meal or one day of overeating it isn't going to do very much damage. And just remember that the season is about connection, joy, and memories, and your fitness should support it and not fight it. And I think this is probably the most helpful tip on this entire slide, is the ultimate mindset shift. So going into the holidays, holidays aren't just about food. The main thing why we are gathering together is to connect with your friends and your family. And so before entering an event, remind yourself of that. Try to focus on the people and the connections and not just fixate on the food. And I think this mindset shift helped me so much when I was in my early 20s. I would just focus on all of the food I was going to eat, how much turkey I was going to eat, how many rolls I was going to eat, how many desserts I was going to try. And so I wouldn't even really participate in the conversations. They would be a very surface level, but I'm just like focusing on like seconds and thirds and what other food I'm going to try in the back of my head, rather than once I started doing this mindset shift, I started focusing on getting to know my cousins better, or getting to know my uncle that I never really talked to better, or kind of getting to know my grandpa a little bit better. And once I started with that mindset shift, focusing on the people over the food, so making it more people first, that really helped me enjoy the event a little bit more. I got deeper connections with my family and my friends, and I wasn't so fixated on the food, and that wasn't the main focus. So I think that mindset shift is huge. It's not easy to do by any means because there's so much fun food around, but if you can kind of like premeditate going into events and stuff, being like, I'm going to deepen my connection with these 3 people, or I'm going to try to really focus on people and get to know them, that's going to help you a ton. And I think it'll make the events a little bit more enjoyable too. All right, Q&A. Does anybody have any questions on any of that? No questions. Does anyone have any comments? Let's see what Cassie said. She said, this was great, good reminders and advice. Also other topics for the future. Yeah, if anyone has any topics that they want us to cover, drop those in the chat and we can write those down and we can present on them. But cool, does anybody have any questions on that? Or is there any feedback or anything that you guys have done leading up to holidays that have helped you guys be successful?
Kind of related, but not related to holidays necessarily. Going to the slide about if you have like events going on. So this week I had a lot going on. I had a rock orchestra. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. They like do rock songs as like an orchestra, which is pretty cool. But they didn't do Ozzy Osbourne, which is very strange to me. But they did like AC/DC, they did System of a Down, they did all these. Anyway, so I knew I was going to that, right? And because I was going to that, we were celebrating my boyfriend. He's been sober 3 years, so we went to celebrate. And so that was like his gift. And we were going to go to Olive Garden because that's his favorite. But anyway, I had to ask my trainer what I should eat at Olive Garden because everything's like way more calories than my entire daily amount. And so what I ended up doing, I asked her, and then when I went there, I knew I wanted the cheesecake, right? Like that's what I want. I want the pumpkin cheesecake. So I worked around that, and I just like ordered my meal based off of knowing I wanted to make room for that indulgence. So, and then, Friday night or Friday, I had to work through lunch. So I didn't really eat anything for most of the day Friday. So then on Friday night, I was able to prioritize protein in my dinner and like make sure I was eating a good amount of food because I didn't really eat most of the day. And then, like I said, I had the wedding. So it was kind of fun to try to plan ahead for all those things because I had the time to do it. And it was to pick what I wanted to eat, ahead of time and make sure I stuck to that for the most part.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you've been in the program for a month, right?
It's been, sorry, my sisters just tried to FaceTime me while I'm in here. Yes, this is my week 4 now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think those are all huge like things that you're pulling out of this program for being here for like just a month. So I love that you are finding the balance of still working in pumpkin cheesecake and fun foods and you're like focusing on protein. So I think all of that is huge. So good job with that. Blair, do you have any tips? I feel like you're good at these.
I like Amber, and like that slide that you had, I definitely do try to fit in my indulgence. So like my nephew's birthday party, I knew they were having pizza and cake and all the good stuff. And I was like, I'm going to eat before we go, which was actually a tip on one of these videos that you had previously.
Yeah.
And I ate before I went, got my protein in, and I knew I was having cake and ice cream.
Nice. Awesome. But yeah, that's perfect. So you don't have to indulge in everything. You didn't have the pizza or whatever. You still
Yeah.
get your protein goal, but you were able to have cake and ice cream. So you didn't feel like you missed out. So that's really cool. Kim and Melissa, do you guys have anything? They've been in the program for quite a bit of time. They're like, this is second nature.
We're lifers now.
I think it's sometimes like Kim just said, we'll split things.
A lot of like desserts.
So if it's like, yeah, if you go somewhere and they, here's a piece of pie or whatever, we'll split it to like help us keep the portion control down.
And you just need a little taste sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't need the whole kit caboodle.
Yeah. No, I think that's good.
And I like the P&P, the protein and produce. I mean, I think it helps, yeah, if you have the half of your plate is like produce, of salad or some sort of veggies, and then the protein, and then be able to try all the sides in that other little quarter of your plate. And I think that's been super helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've done that before with the plate breakdown? Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that has helped me a ton too. Is like you're filling up your stomach with a lot of vegetables, so you feel good, you feel satisfied, and then you're having a bunch of those like fun little foods on the side too. So that is great. Okay, cool. Anybody else have any tips they want to share or anything that they've done that they found helpful?
Can I add something real quick?
You sure can.
So something I had to learn to, deal with or just learn to accept was on the days where I have events, I try to I eat my yogurt for breakfast. I pack all the snacks I want to have. And I try to be careful at the events, but I've noticed there's days when it's probably like a lot of sodium or I just eat a little too much or whatever. So the next day the scale's up a little bit, but with following this program, it's so easy to get it back down.
Mm-hmm.
So at first it was like, great, I'm failing. And now it's like, okay, I had my fun. It's up a little, move on and get back on track. And I feel like it's been a lot more easy to accept that.
Yeah.
These last few months. So I don't know, anyone who's new, it's just something to keep in mind. It's not a failure. It's going to come right back off.
Totally. Yeah. I think, that's one of the biggest things that it's hard to learn, but it's important is just like not let it spiral into longer than it needs to be. Because a lot of times you're like, well, the scale's already up today. I'm just going to not really track Saturday. I'm not really going to track Sunday. I'll just start clean Monday. And then you're way further behind than what you needed to be. So I think that mindset of being okay, that happened yesterday. I don't feel the greatest today. The scale went up a little bit, but I'm going to get right back on track. And then it comes off fairly quickly. So that's good. Lindsay?
I do have, my advice would be I have Friendsgiving coming up this weekend and then obviously Thanksgiving, but I already know what food's going to be there.
Okay.
So I can pre-log all of my food before I even get there and have that. So if I do walking in, I know if I have extra calories that I can kind of binge on. If I want to go off the menu a little bit, I can. And I feel like that really does help a lot when you know what the menu is, you pre-log it, so you're not walking in blind.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's a good tip too, is to log 80% of your calories. So that way, if there is something that pops up that wasn't unplanned, you do have 20% of your calories to be okay, I want to try that too. So you don't log the entire day, but you do log most of it. So you have a good solid plan. And then if there's something that pops up, you can still have something like that. So
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good thing to add. Anybody else have anything they want to add? No? Alrighty. That was awesome advice. Yeah, I like your guys' input on all of that. Okay, and if you guys have any other ideas of coaching calls, Cassie did say all things hydration, pre and post workout meals / snacks. So we can definitely do presentations on that. I think Kyle said last week, stretching and balance. So we'll do a presentation on that as well. But if there's anything more, I guess, like time appropriate, like how this one is for holidays, like obviously it's important to present like right before the holidays so that way you have a strategy. If you guys can think of something like that, like with the new year coming up, let me know and then we can present on that when we need to. But you guys are awesome and I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.